The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Defense Council grew quiet. 50 military leaders from Earth's united forces sat around a massive table. Their faces showed worry and fear. The huge screen at the front displayed red dots where Earth ships had been destroyed. Admiral Lee pointed at the screen with a grim face. His uniform, covered with medals from past victories, seemed to weigh heavy on his shoulders today. "The Proxima system has fallen," he said. His voice echoed in the silent room. "We lost 30 ships and over 4,000 crew members. This is our third major defeat this month." Someone banged a fist on the table. "How are we supposed to fight them? Their ships move faster. Their weapons cut through our shields like paper." Admiral Lee nodded. "Our conventional warships cannot match their technology. We need a new approach, or humanity will not survive this war." The Vorn had appeared 2 years ago. At first, they seemed peaceful, studying human ships from a distance. Then the attacks began. The Vorn destroyed Earth's outer colonies one by one. Their tactics were perfect, their movements precise. In the back of the room, a woman with short black hair stood up. Dr. Kim was not a military leader. She was a scientist, known for strange ideas that most people laughed at. Today, no one was laughing. "May I speak?" she asked. Admiral Lee nodded. "Please, Dr. Kim. We need all ideas." Dr. Kim walked to the front of the room. She took out a small device and pressed a button. The screen changed from battle statistics to her own presentation. "We've been thinking about this problem all wrong," she said. Her voice was soft but confident. "We've been trying to build better ships, stronger weapons, faster engines. But that's not our real problem." She pressed another button. The screen showed recordings of Earth ships in battle. They moved in careful formations. Their attacks followed standard patterns. "Our problem isn't technology," Dr. Kim continued. "It's predictability. The Vorn analyze patterns and anticipate our tactics. They know what we'll do before we do it." Admiral Lee frowned. "That's basic military strategy. Organized formations, coordinated attacks." "Yes," said Dr. Kim. "And it's killing us. The Vorn are perfect at prediction. Their computers can calculate exactly how we'll respond in any situation. We need something they can't predict." She pressed her button again. The screen showed a strange ship design. People in the room leaned forward, confused by what they saw. The ship looked wrong. One side was bigger than the other. Weapons stuck out at odd angles. Parts of it seemed unfinished or badly designed. "What is that?" someone asked. "It looks like a ship that's been damaged in battle." "This is Project Trickster," Dr. Kim said proudly. "A warship designed to be fundamentally unpredictable." Admiral Lee stood up. His face was red with anger. "This is nonsense. This ship violates every principle of military design. It's asymmetrical. Its weapon placement makes no logical sense. The engine configuration would make it move in unpredictable ways." "Exactly," Dr. Kim replied with a slight smile. "That's why it will work." The room filled with loud voices. Some military leaders laughed. Others shouted that this was a waste of time. Dr. Kim waited for the noise to die down. "The Trickster isn't just unusual looking. Its computers are designed to make random choices in battle. Sometimes it will attack head-on. Sometimes it will retreat when logic says it should attack. It will fire weapons in patterns that make no sense." "That's madness," said Admiral Lee. "A ship needs to be controlled, predictable to its crew." "The Vorn expect us to be rational," Dr. Kim replied. "Their whole strategy depends on it. But what if we aren't? What if our ship does things no logical enemy could predict?" Admiral Lee shook his head. No military leader would approve this. An old man at the end of the table stood up. General Park was the oldest officer in the room. He had fought in wars for 50 years. "I've seen enough war to know when old ways fail," he said. "The Vorn beat us because they know what we'll do. Perhaps it's time to do something no one would expect." He looked at Dr. Kim. "How long would it take to build this ship?" 3 months, she answered. "We've been working on the design for a year." General Park nodded. I vote we try it. What do we have to lose? One by one, the military leaders started to agree. Admiral Lee was the last. Fine, he said finally, but I want to pick the captain myself. Someone who can handle unpredictability. Dr. Kim nodded. Of course. As the meeting ended, Dr. Kim looked again at her strange ship design. For the first time since the war began, she felt hope. Sometimes the best way to fight logic was with its opposite. Captain Park walked slowly around the bridge of the HMS Jester. This was his first day as commander of Earth's strangest warship. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. The ship smelled new. A mix of fresh paint and clean electronics. After 20 years in Earth's fleet, Park thought he had seen every type of ship. He had commanded small fighters, mid-sized cruisers, and even a massive battleship. But the Jester was different from all of them. "Sir, something is happening to the ship," said Lieutenant Choi. He pointed at his screen with a worried look. The whole configuration has changed again. Most captains would panic at these words. A changing hull meant danger, possible structural failure. But Park remembered Dr. Kim's words from his briefing 3 days ago. "Let it," Park replied calmly. "The ship knows what it's doing." Choi looked confused. "Sir, the outer hull just shifted 20 meters on the port side. That's not normal." "Nothing about this ship is normal, Lieutenant," Park said with a small smile. The other bridge crew looked nervous. They were all top officers, selected from the best ships in the fleet. But here, their experience meant little. The Jester followed its own rules. Park walked to the main viewing screen. From inside, the bridge looked like any other warship. Screens, control panels, command chairs. But the outside was constantly changing. The Jester used quantum holographic technology in its hull. It could make itself look different to outside observers. Sometimes it appeared damaged. Sometimes it seemed to split into multiple ships. The hull could appear solid from one angle and almost transparent from another. "Show me the current exterior view," Park ordered. The screen lit up. The Jester now looked like it had a huge bulge on its left side, as if something was about to burst through the hull. "That would frighten an enemy," Park noted. "They'd think we have a critical problem." The ship's strange features weren't just for show. Its chaos drive engine pushed the ship in ways that defied normal physics. Engineers had tried to explain how it worked to Park, but even they didn't fully understand it. The drive made decisions about direction and speed that sometimes seemed random. Most bizarre were the paradox cannons, weapons that somehow exploited logical contradictions in enemy defense systems. Park had read the technical description 5 times, but still couldn't understand how they worked. "Captain, we're ready to begin the first training exercise," reported Officer Han from the weapons station. Park nodded. "Take us out, half power." The ship hummed as it moved away from the space dock. Park could feel tiny vibrations under his feet, different from any ship he'd commanded before. The Jester didn't move smoothly like other ships. It seemed to hesitate, then surge forward, then drift slightly to one side. "Is there a problem with the navigation system?" Park asked. "No, sir," replied the navigator. "The ship is responding perfectly to its own commands. It's just not responding to mine in the way I expect." Park nodded. This was exactly what Dr. Kim had warned him about. The Jester had its own way of moving, its own strategy. The crew wasn't really in control. They were partners with a ship that thought differently than humans did. 2 hours later, they reached the training area. 3 small drones waited to simulate enemy ships. "Begin standard evasion pattern," Park ordered. The Jester started to move, turning and shifting to avoid the drone's tracking systems. Then, without warning, all the lights on the bridge went dark. The engine sound stopped. Every system powered down. "Emergency restart," Park called out automatically. But before anyone could respond, Officer Han whispered, "Captain, look." On the emergency backup screen, Park could see one of the training drones moving closer to investigate the apparently dead ship. Park realized what was happening. "Hold all emergency protocols," he ordered. "The ship is playing dead." The drone came closer, its sensors scanning the Jester for signs of life. When it was just 50 meters away, the Jester suddenly blazed back to life. All systems powered up at once. A targeting beam locked onto the surprised drone. "Fire training pulse," Park said, now understanding. The harmless training beam hit the drone, registering a direct hit that would have destroyed a real enemy. The bridge crew looked at each other in amazement. None of them had programmed that tactic. "It's not malfunctioning," Park realized, a slow smile spreading across his face. "It's thinking differently than we do." As the training continued, Park began to understand the true nature of his command. He wasn't there to control the Jester. He was there to learn from it, to adapt to its strange way of fighting. The ship didn't follow human logic, and that was exactly why it might be able to defeat the logical, predictable Thorn. "Next exercise," Park said with growing confidence. "And this time, let's let the ship lead the way." The emergency alert woke Captain Park from a deep sleep. Red lights flashed in his quarters. The ship's AI spoke with urgency. "Captain, to the bridge. Vorn ships detected." Park dressed quickly and hurried through the corridors of the HMS Jester. Crew members rushed to their stations, faces tight with worry. This wasn't a drill. After 3 months of training, they would face the real enemy. When Park reached the bridge, the main screen showed Epsilon Station. The small human outpost orbited a blue-green moon. Beyond it loomed 3 massive ships, Vorn dreadnoughts, their dark metal hulls shaped like perfect arrowheads. "Report," Park ordered, taking his command chair. 3 Vorn ships approaching Epsilon Station, Lieutenant Choi said. "They began their attack 5 minutes ago. The station's defenses won't last long." Park studied the enemy formation. The 3 Vorn ships moved together in a triangle pattern, perfectly spaced. Every movement seemed planned to the millimeter. The Vorn were known for their mathematical precision in battle. "They don't know we're here yet," Officer Han said from the weapons station. "They will soon," Park replied. "Status of our systems. All systems ready, but unstable as usual," Choi reported. "The Chaos Drive is suggesting 5 different movement patterns." Park nodded. "Let the ship choose. Our job is to work with its instincts." The HMS Jester moved forward, emerging from behind the moon where it had been hiding. Its approach was unlike any other Earth ship. It didn't move in a straight line but wobbled and zigzagged unpredictably. "They're scanning us, Captain," Lieutenant Choi reported, watching his instruments. Park smiled slightly. "Good. Let's give them something to think about." He tapped a command into his chair controls. "Activate hull shifting. Random pattern. Let's confuse them." The Jester's outer hull began to change shape. Using quantum holographic technology, it created illusions that would baffle enemy sensors. From one angle, it might appear damaged. From another, it looked perfectly intact. Sensors would report it was heavily armed one moment, then defenseless the next. On the screen, Park saw one of the Vorn ships break formation slightly, turning toward the Jester. "They've noticed us," Park said. "They'll try to analyze us before attacking." The Vorn were logical beings. They studied their enemies carefully before engaging. Their computers would be working to categorize the Jester, to understand its capabilities. "Sir, we're getting unusual energy readings from the lead Vorn ship," reported Officer Han. "I think they're confused by our signature." Park nodded. "That's exactly what we want." The lead Vorn ship suddenly fired a bright energy beam directly at the Jester. The bridge crew tensed. "Brace for impact," called Choi. But instead of trying to dodge, the Jester did something strange. Part of its hull seemed to absorb the blast energy. Then, in a dazzling display, the ship appeared to break apart into 5 separate vessels, each one a perfect copy of the Jester. "Holographic decoys deployed," Choi said with amazement. The ship did it automatically. On the screen, they could see the Vorn ships adjusting their formation. They fired again, But now they split their attack, targeting each of the 5 Jester images. Their perfect formation is breaking, Park observed. They don't know which one is real. The real Jester moved unpredictably among its decoys. The Vorn ships continued to fire, hitting only empty space or holographic images that flickered and reappeared elsewhere. The Vorn ships are spreading out, reported Han. They're trying to cover more area. Park leaned forward in his chair. This was the moment they had trained for. Now, he ordered quietly. Officer Han pressed the firing controls. The paradox cannons powered up with a strange humming sound. But instead of firing at the Vorn ships directly, the energy beams shot into the empty space between them. "What's happening?" asked a young crew member, confused. The paradox cannons didn't work like normal weapons. They didn't damage hulls or destroy engines. Instead, they attacked something more fundamental: the enemy's logical systems. The energy spread between the Vorn ships like a web of light. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, the perfect formation of the 3 Vorn ships collapsed. One ship spun sideways. Another fired its weapons in a random direction. The third started moving in a circle. "Direct hit to their coordination systems," Han reported excitedly. "Their ships can't communicate properly." Park watched as the mighty Vorn fleet fell into disarray. These enemies had destroyed dozens of Earth's best ships. They had never been defeated in open combat. Yet now they moved like confused animals, unable to maintain their perfect tactics. They can't handle unpredictability, Park realized aloud. That's their weakness. The crew looked at him with new understanding. The Vorn depended on logic and prediction. Their entire battle strategy relied on calculating what their enemy would do next. But the Jester couldn't be predicted, not by enemies, not even by its own crew. "Signal Epsilon Station," Park ordered. "Tell them to launch all fighters. The Vorn formation is broken." As Earth fighters swarmed from the station to attack the confused Vorn ships, Park placed his hand on the wall of his strange, unpredictable ship. "Well done, Jester," he said quietly. "You've just changed the course of this war." The Great Hall at Earth Fleet Headquarters was filled with captains, admirals, and ship commanders. 1 month had passed since the HMS Jester's victory at Epsilon Station. News had spread quickly through the fleet. The impossible had happened. A single Earth ship had confused and defeated 3 Vorn dreadnoughts. Dr. Kim stood on a small stage at the front of the room. Behind her, large screens showed images of the Jester in battle. She looked tired but happy. "Thank you all for coming," she began. Her voice was stronger now than when she had first proposed her strange ship to the Defense Council. "What we learned from the Jester goes beyond one victory. It changes everything we thought we knew about fighting the Vorn." Admiral Lee sat in the front row. He had been the biggest critic of the Jester project. Now he listened carefully, his face serious. "The Jester isn't just a ship," Dr. Kim explained. "It's a new philosophy of warfare. The Vorn rely on perfect prediction. They analyze patterns and calculate responses. We need to be fundamentally unpredictable." She showed a recording of the battle at Epsilon Station. The captains watched as the Jester created confusion among the perfectly organized Vorn ships. Captain Park stood up from his seat. He had become famous overnight as the commander who won Earth's first real victory against the Vorn. "May I add something?" he asked. Dr. Kim nodded and Park joined her on the stage. "I've commanded ships for 20 years, Park said, always following the rules, using standard tactics, making logical decisions. The Jester taught me that randomness isn't weakness, it's strength. We've been trying to outthink the Vorn when we should be forcing them to deal with human unpredictability." A captain in the back raised his hand. "But we can't build 1,000 ships like the Jester. It would take years." Dr. Kim smiled. "We don't need to. We can apply the principles to our existing ships." Over the next 3 hours, Dr. Kim and Captain Park explained their plan. Earth ships would be modified with simple versions of the Jester's technology, but more importantly, they would change how they fought. Ships would communicate using patterns that appeared random but contained meaning only humans could intuitively grasp. Battle formations would change unexpectedly. Some ships would retreat when the Vorn expected attack. Others would charge forward when retreat seemed logical. The Vorn can't understand human intuition, Dr. Kim said. Their computers can't predict what doesn't follow logical patterns. Admiral Lee finally stood up. The room went quiet. I was wrong about the jester, he admitted. Dr. Kim, Captain Park, your approach has merit. I'm authorizing a full counteroffensive using these new tactics. The room erupted in cheers and excited talk. For the first time since the war began, Earth's military had hope. 2 weeks later, Captain Park stood on the bridge of the Jester again. The ship had been in space dock for upgrades. Dr. Kim had worked day and night to enhance its systems. Welcome back, Captain, Dr. Kim said as Park entered the bridge. I've made some improvements. Park looked around. The bridge looked the same, but he could feel something different about the ship. What changes did you make? He asked. Dr. Kim touched a control panel lovingly. The ship's core now incorporates human creative thinking directly into its processes, she told Park. It doesn't just simulate unpredictability. It thinks creatively. It can make intuitive leaps that no computer should be able to make. Park raised his eyebrows. How is that possible? I mapped the brain patterns of artists, musicians, and children at play, Dr. Kim explained. Their minds don't follow logical paths. They make unexpected connections. Now the jester can do the same. Park wasn't sure he understood, but he trusted Dr. Kim. We'll put it to the test soon enough. 3 days later, the largest fleet Earth had ever assembled prepared to jump to light speed. 50 warships, all modified with elements of the Jester's technology. Their target, the heart of Vorn territory, their command world Vorax. Admiral Lee's voice came through the communication system. All ships report ready status. One by one, the ship captains confirmed they were prepared. Park was last. The Jester is ready, he said, and eager. Park had started to think of the ship as almost alive. Its systems hummed with energy that seemed to respond to the crew's emotions. Captain Park, Admiral Lee said, your ship will lead the attack. Your success at Epsilon Station has earned you that honor and that risk. We're ready, Admiral, Park replied. The fleet entered lightspeed, shooting through space toward enemy territory. The Jester moved slightly ahead of the other ships, its chaotic propulsion system pushing it faster than should have been possible. As they approached Vorn space, Park addressed his crew. What we do today will change the course of this war. We don't fight with superior weapons or technology. We fight with unpredictability, with human creativity that the Vorn cannot understand. The ship seemed to respond to his words, its systems running smoother than ever before. Dropping out of light speed in 5 seconds, reported Lieutenant Choi. The stars stretched and then returned to normal as the fleet arrived at the edge of the Vorn system. Ahead loomed the massive defense platforms protecting Vorax. The Jester will lead the way, Park said. Let's show the Vorn what human unpredictability really means. The strangest ship in Earth's fleet surged forward, its hull shifting and changing, broadcasting confusing signals in all directions. Behind it, 50 Earth ships followed, each one ready to fight in ways the logical Vorn could never predict. The counteroffensive had begun. The battle over Vorax lasted 3 days. Earth ships moved in strange patterns that confused the Vorn defense systems. Ships appeared damaged when they were fine. Small fighters looked like large battleships on Vorn scanners. Nothing made sense to the logical alien minds. The HMS Jester led the attack, changing course randomly, sometimes charging forward, sometimes retreating without reason. Its paradox cannons fired into empty space, creating disruptions that made Vorn computers shut down or give wrong information. On the 3rd day, something unexpected happened. All Vorn ships suddenly stopped firing. They moved into a defensive circle around their command planet. What's happening? Lieutenant Choi asked, looking at his screen with confusion. A message came through on all frequencies. The computer translated it into a flat, emotionless voice. Human vessels. This is the Vorn Supreme Commander. I wish to speak with the ship called Jester. Captain Park looked at his officers in surprise. In 2 years of war, the Vorn had never tried to communicate. Should we respond, Captain? Asked Officer Han. Park nodded slowly. Open a channel. The main screen changed to show a strange sight. The Vorn Supreme Commander wasn't what anyone expected. It had no body, just a glowing ball of blue light contained in a clear case filled with liquid. Small machines floated around it. I am Captain Park of the HMS Jester, Park said, standing tall. The blue light pulsed as the Vorn spoke. Your tactics defy rational analysis, the Vorn stated, its translated voice flat and emotionless. Your vessels perform actions without strategic benefit. Park thought carefully before answering. Only if you define benefit narrowly, he replied. Unpredictability itself has value. The blue light flickered rapidly, as if the Vorn was processing this idea. Inefficient, wasteful, countered the Vorn. Yet effective against perfect logic, said Park. Your greatest strength became your vulnerability. You cannot defeat what you cannot predict. The bridge crew watched in silence. No human had ever spoken directly with the Vorn leadership before. We have studied your species for years, the Vorn commander said. You were deemed inferior because of your emotional responses and illogical decisions. Our calculations showed a 99.8% chance of victory. Park smiled slightly. Your calculations didn't account for human creativity. Explain creativity, demanded the Vorn. Park thought about how to explain something so basic to humans yet so foreign to the logical Vorn. Creativity is seeing connections where none existed before, he said. It's trying new approaches not because they're logical, but because they might work. It's using imagination to find paths that pure calculation would never consider. The blue light swirled in its container. This is why your ship fires weapons at empty space. Why you sometimes retreat when attack would be more efficient. Yes, Park said. We don't always choose the most logical action. Sometimes we try something new just to see what happens. There was a long silence. The Vorn commander seemed to be thinking deeply. Our models cannot predict your behavior, it finally said. We cannot fight what we cannot predict. This is unacceptable. Park leaned forward. There is another option. We can stop fighting. Another long pause followed. The blue light pulsed slowly. You propose peace? The Vorn asked. Yes, Park said simply. We won't try to destroy you. You won't try to destroy us. We can learn from each other instead. The Vorn commander's light flickered rapidly. Your illogical approach to warfare might have other applications. It is interesting. 3 hours later, the Earth fleet received incredible news. The Vorn had agreed to end hostilities, not because they had been defeated completely, but because they recognized they could not overcome human unpredictability with their logical strategies. 6 months later, Captain Park stood in the observation deck of Earth's main space station. Beside him was Dr. Kim. They watched as a new ship left the construction dock. The first of the Trickster-class vessels, Dr. Kim said proudly, based on the Jester's design but with some improvements. Park nodded. The Jester changed everything. Not just our ships, but how other species see humans. It was true. Since the end of the war, 3 other alien civilizations had opened diplomatic relations with Earth. All had previously dismissed humans as primitive and emotional. Now they sought to understand human creativity and unpredictability. The Vorn scientists have been studying our art and music, Dr. Kim said. They can't understand why we create things with no practical purpose. Park smiled. They will, in time, and will learn from their logical approach too. As they watched the new ship move gracefully through space, Park thought about how strange the universe was. Humans had always seen their emotions and unpredictability as weaknesses compared to pure logic. Yet those very qualities had saved them. You know what the Vorn ambassador told me yesterday? Dr. Kim asked. He said their scientists have a new saying. Perfect systems have perfect vulnerabilities. Park nodded. And our saying should be, creative improvisation can find paths that pure logic would never consider. The new ship fired its engines and jumped to light speed, its asymmetrical hull gleaming in the starlight. It wasn't going to war, but to explore, to find new civilizations, and share humanity's greatest weapon. Not technology or firepower, but the beautiful unpredictability of the human mind. The end.